staying in the Big East for now. Next. And welcome to the Stan Simpson Show, a program about Connecticut people and compelling issues. Make it a point to drop in every week. It looks like UConn is pledging its loyalty to the Big East Conference, at least for now. But a slew of defections in recent years, can the Big East truly be viable in years to come? And what kind of guidelines can be put in place to hold all college presidents accountable for these shameless defections and money grabs? University of Hartford President Walter Harrison, UConn men's basketball beat writer Don Amore, and WTIC AM sportscaster Scott Gray join us for a chat about this. Then we'll wrap things up with a breast cancer awareness survivor, or a breast cancer survivor, who will talk about some troubling trends in Connecticut as we engage in Breast Cancer Awareness Month. But first, UConn is pledging its loyalty to the Big East. Really, Don Amore?
Well, I don't know if I would go that far. I mean, they're pledging their willingness to stay as long as they have no choice. If that's loyalty, I guess that's what it is. I mean, they would like to move to the ACC. They've certainly made no bones about it. But, you know, as Gino Auriemma said, you can't move when you're not invited, and they have not been invited. So for now, I think they're doing the wise thing, which is to try to make the best of the situation they have in the Big East.
Don Amore, Hartford Courant UConn men's beat writer. Walter Harrison, Mr. President of UR. Scott Gray, a 6-time Connecticut Sportscaster of the Year. All right, guys, so they kind of make this oath. They're holding their noses. What's the future hold? Because right now, Syracuse and Pitt have pledged to move to the ACC, though they can't do so within 27 months, and they have to pay a $5 million exit fee, right? So what's really going to happen? Get your crystal ball out. In the next 24, 27 months, where will UConn be? President Harrison.
In the ACC. I think, I mean, I have no crystal ball.
You sure about that? I thought all your presidents had those crystal balls.
No, it's just like not being held accountable. You know, we can't do anything right. But I do think that there's a number of other things in flux, in my view, most notably what does Notre Dame do? And the ACC is sort of waiting around to see what happens. But if you ask me 24 months from now, UConn will be in the Big East, or in the ACC.
Scott Gray, do you concur?
I agree with that, and I think it comes down to there are a couple teams I think in the country right now that can pretty much call their own shots. Notre Dame, as Walter said, and the University of Texas, which they are pretty much doing with their new Longhorn television network in conjunction with ESPN. And I think Texas has pretty much made its decision on what it wants to do because they have so much legislative power in the Big 12. They can stay right there and pretty much have a hand in how the new Big 12 is formalized. And Notre Dame still can make the decision as to whether or not they feel they can remain an independent or if they have to go to a conference, and if they do, they can have their pick of conferences, either the Big Ten or the ACC. And I think as long as they give the ACC any glimmer of hope, the ACC will wait on that. I think the University of Connecticut is in a great position in that when the ACC does expand again, it will be two teams, and UConn will be one of them. They're just kind of waiting to see if it'll be Notre Dame or Rutgers that goes with them.
How about from an integrity standpoint? You know, a lot of universities now, NCAA is cracking down on the integrity issues. Athletes leaving early, regulations with compliance, academics, coaches leaving early, coaches complying. This unseemly process points to college presidents. Let's talk about it. How uncomfortable is it for the college presidents to be sitting on top of this money grab when they're the ones trying to exert some level of integrity on the system?
Oh, I think you've hit it right on the
That's why I had you on here.
There's a matter here of perceived hypocrisy. Presidents talk about integrity, talk about student-athlete welfare, and then it looks to most people, and I think correctly, that they're making decisions about conferences and taking neither of those two things into consideration.
Do you all talk about it among yourselves when the presidents talk? Do you find yourself having to sort of, you know, on the one hand, worry about money and cash and what's next, on the other hand, keep a level of comportment and integrity? Do you guys, what do they say among each other when they talk about this whole process?
Oh, I think there's a significant sense of discomfort about all of this. I don't know I'm not blaming the presidents who have decided to move for making a completely irrational decision. In each case, you can make an argument for why it's good for their institution, but if you add them up, you come away with the same impression you do, that most of these decisions are being driven by where is the most money, and I think that's very uncomfortable.
Well, you know what? The bills have to get paid. I mean, they're there to, in large part to make money, and you wonder, are they in our system? Are they compelled to stay somewhere if they can go somewhere else and make more money? But what I don't like, and where I do think some of what President Harrison is alluding to, is that when you start doing things for money, but now it's about, you have a school in Connecticut and a school in Idaho and a school in Colorado in the same conference, then you're also sacrificing that integrity because you've got this travel schedule and these sports to play in the middle of the week, the sports that maybe we don't hear much about. There's a compromise now of academics there. So I think, if you're going to make a move to, for more money where you're not necessarily doing that, you could swallow it. But when you're making a move for more money that's going to create that kind of hardship on students, then I think you're going over the line and putting too much of a premium on money.
Sanctity of contracts. Coaches sign contracts. The minute they sign it, they're already out the door. Athletes sign contract for scholarships. The minute they sign, they're looking to go to the pros. I mean, whatever happened to loyalty and the sanctity of a signed contract and your word and your commitment?
You want loyalty, Stan? Get a dog. Seriously, I mean, there are so many different levels of hypocrisy. I mean, like Dom was saying, I mean, money is like politics, makes strange bedfellows. And I think to a certain degree, one of the things that I did like hearing from Susan Herbst was her concern about the issue that Dom addressed about not wanting to have her athletes on the road for 3 days to play one conference game. And I think one of the things that would be addressed if you went to these super conferences of 16 teams is you could regionalize the schedule a little bit. If UConn, for instance, went into the ACC, they'd be in the ACC North, which would have them playing Syracuse and Rutgers and Boston College and Maryland, a regional schedule more than the full ACC schedule, which would come into play, other teams would come into play every other year or so. In the Big Ten, they could probably, if they went into the Big Ten, be an East-West setup where they would be playing more of a regional East schedule. But, as far as the hypocrisy on all these levels, you talked about ethics, high standards. I find it kind of interesting that the league that expanded Miami football 8 years ago, from what I'm hearing now, has certain questions about University of Connecticut men's basketball, for instance.
Okay, meaning what? I think questions, meaning what kind of questions?
Well, the fact that the program is under probation right now, and
that Miami's probing the UConn men's basketball or UConn football?
UConn men's basketball.
Okay, sorry.
With the probation, the lost scholarships, and there is some concern about that.
But all these schools now have some mud on their shoes, truth be told, right? Investigations left and right.
Well, now that they're doing this, they all do. It's hard not to get out of this swamp without some mud on your shoes.
All right, we're going to talk more about the mud on your shoes and find out what we can do to maybe change the system, and if we can figure out a way to keep conferences intact, keep the loyalty intact. When we come back with the Stan Simpson Show, more about what the NCAA can do to hold college presidents accountable in these shameless conference defections. You're watching the Stan Simpson Show. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, too.